conspiracy theory, creepy conspiracy, and we're going to be talking about hollow earth theory. So yeah, if you find that interesting, keep on watching. Let's just get straight into it. So, hollow earth theory is the concept of proposing that the earth that we live on is completely hollow. You know, it's kind of weird to think about it, but like, we don't live in earth, we literally live on the surface of earth. So yeah, the idea that like it's just a shell and it's empty on the inside is kind of weird, but let's get into it. Okay, so June 13th of 2014, I would like to start with when researching hollow earth theory. A lot of places make a lot of claims that just aren't scientifically correct. Like ancient aliens suggested that in June of 2014, scientists found this large body of water 3 times the size of all of our oceans combined, and it was right under Earth's mantle. Yeah, but no. And like, I can't really hold that against them because they're historians, and because that's on the History Channel, right? It doesn't matter. It's for TV, so it's probably not historically accurate, and it's not scientifically accurate. But scientists did find something that's pretty interesting that does connect to hollow earth theory, but it was not this gigantic, large body of water that's like under Earth's crust, you know, with the waves waving. The scientists found evidence that suggested that there might be water that is, when combined, 3 times the amount of our oceans under Earth's crust. What's odd about that is like it's within the mineral layer of Earth, and it is thought to be about 400 miles inside of Earth. The scientists didn't like find an ocean or anything like that. What they found was a deep pocket of magma, you know, at this depth inside of the Earth. Or they found a deep pocket of magma. It's not 400 miles inside the Earth. I don't know how far they drilled down, but it was indicative. Magma is indicative of a water supply. So by finding the magma pocket, they could infer that there was water and how deep down the water was. But even at that, like, I just want to define magma because I have it in my notes. Magma is considered hot fluid below Earth's crust from which lava and other indigenous rock comes from. So magma is a fluid, of course. In order to be a fluid, in order for it to be fluid, you need water. The water was not in liquid form at all. The scientist states that they were ingredients for water bound in deep rock in Earth's mantle. And when they say ingredients for water, that's very interesting to me because, like, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that there are like hydrogen and oxygen ions that just haven't bonded yet? Like, is there H3O that's like super reactive, and then there's like OH, and those are like bouncing off of each other, and like sometimes water can be made. I really don't know what that means, like ingredients for water. It has to be some hydrogen source and some oxygen source. I'm just not sure how those things go together. create water, because the scientists clearly state like it's not liquid form water. It's just the ingredients for water bound into the rocks in the Earth's mantle. Nonetheless, the discovery suggests water from Earth's surface can be driven to such great depths by tectonic plates, eventually causing a partial melting of the rocks bound deep in the mantle. This was a particularly profound finding because it changed what we thought we knew about the composition of the Earth and what we thought we knew about how the Earth is made. It was like kind of wrong because scientists weren't thinking that there was water there, but they thought water could only be found on Earth's surface. But there is the potential for water to be in Earth's other layers, even if there are layers. Like, hello, this is hollow Earth theory, even if there are layers. But I do want to touch on something. So, as we all know, I'm not going to assume we all, but because some people might not be from America, within the American school system, take science class and they teach you all of Earth's layers. You have to memorize Earth's layers for your science test. I'm sure everybody from America knows what I'm talking about. Hopefully. But yeah. And I just want to tell you all, as a scientist, that what they teach us in school is just a theory. No one knows if that is true. So I'm just gonna go over the Earth's layers so I can refresh you all's memories from 5th grade science. So we start off with Earth crust, which Earth's crust. I'm sorry, y'all. I know I'm not saying Earth right. I know I'm saying Earth with an F and an Earth, but that's just how I talk. So, Earth's layers. The crust is about 0 to 100 kilometers, which is approximately 0 to 62, 63 miles thick. Just the crust. That's the thinnest layer. And then after that, you have different layers of what is considered the mantle, which is kind of like the middle layer. It separates the crust from the core. That's the mantle. I think that's where tectonic plates shift and stuff. Look, I'm a biomedical scientist. I am not a geologist. Yeah, so I think that's where tectonic plates are, in the mantle, but don't quote me on that. After that, you get into Earth's core, and then there's an outer core and an inner core. Supposedly, the outer core is supposed to be liquid, and the inner core is supposed to be completely solid. As we know, the crust is solid because it's just like dirt. I'm not sure if the mantle is liquid or solid. If we have, or a combination of both. If it has the tectonic plates, I would assume that it has to be solid in some form. But yeah, that's what we learn in school, right? Completely a theory, a very, at the time, well inferred, well believed theory, but a theory nonetheless. It's not facts, but they teach it to us in school like it's facts, which is interesting. But the honest truth is that we have actually never dug deep enough to confirm if that theory is true or not. Like I said, Earth's crust is 0 to 62 miles. It's 0 when it meets the ocean, which I find interesting because we haven't even gotten to the bottom of the ocean yet. But that's where it's considered 0 at the ocean. But isn't there some type of, I would assume that there would be some type of like surface or bottom to the oceans that would still count as crust. But I don't know. I'm not gonna like get super into the details because I will literally be talking all day. But continuing on, so the crust can be from 0 to 62 miles long. The farthest that we've been able to drill down is about 8 miles, and then we have to stop because of like the intense heat and pressure. So we don't know. Some scientists believe that there are 4,000 or more miles to get to Earth's core, and we've only did 8. Like, as far as we can go, it's 8. We haven't even like scratched the surface. Literally, we haven't even scratched the surface because we can't even get through the crust. Yeah, so essentially our theory of Earth's composition could be completely wrong. Who's to say that there really are these different layers, and that, you know, the Earth is not just hollow in the middle? Like, who's to say we don't know that for sure? Continuing on, something that was also very interesting is that lots of ancient societies have like these legends and stories about another world inside of this world, which is very interesting. I think there's a lot of value in going back and analyzing ancient civilizations and their beliefs and things like that, because they are the root of what we are. Like, we wouldn't be here without those ancient civilizations, and I think they hold a lot of knowledge. One I want to talk about is within Buddhism, and it's called Agartha. And there's just this legend of a kingdom within the Buddhist culture. Like, this kingdom is said to be located at Earth's core. And Agartha was the name of underground dwellers who lived in the city at Earth's core, which is Shambhala. Shambhala means place of peace or place of silence. I also apologize if I'm butchering these names. I'm just sounding them out, y'all. And apparently the people who lived in Shambhala were said to be like immortal beings, or like a higher society of people than us who just live on Earth. I think that's interesting that even like hollow Earth theory is a thing, was a thing in like ancient Buddhist societies. That's so cool to me. And it also poses like this idea of like, okay, if Earth is hollow, then what's inside of it? Is it just empty space? Like, does it look like outer space? Is it just like dark with different stars and shit like that? Or like, is there a whole nother society of people living in a whole different atmosphere inside of the Earth that we live on top of? Like, what's inside of the Earth if the Earth hollow? I don't know. Leave what you think is inside of the Earth. If you think that I'm not gonna say if you think that the Earth is hollow, because okay, come on, we don't know. But if hollow Earth theory were to be true, what do you think is inside of the Earth? Like, do you think it's nothing? Do you think it's like a whole nother world? Like, what's in there? Tell me what y'all think. So, another person that I would like to talk about is Edmund Halley. And in 1692, Edmund Halley was a scientist, and in 1692, he released this theory that he thought the Earth was made of was like multiple hollow shells. The one we lived on just was the one that was 500 miles thick. Kind of like he viewed the earth as like an onion that had all of these different shells or layers on top of each other, but in between each there's like this hollow space. He stated that each shell or like layer had its own atmosphere and own magnetic poles. He also stated that each cell or layer rotated at different speeds, which is interesting, like which one would be the slowest and which one would be the fastest. I would think that the most inner shell would have to be like the fastest rotating, and the most outer shell, the earth we live on, would be the slowest rotating. But that's just like my thought. It literally, I have nothing to back that thought. That's just what makes sense in my head. So yeah, that was interesting. And yeah, basically we are just living on the outermost layer. Yeah, he proposed this theory in 1692. 1692. People have been saying like the earth is hollow even before that. That's kind of crazy. Moving on, a few years later, in 1738, Leonhard Euler, who was I believe he was more of a mathematician than a scientist, but like it very much overlapped. And he proposed a theory that Earth was one single shell, not multiple hollow shells, but one single shell, and that it was hollow, and that there was a 600-mile diameter of the sun in the middle of the earth. So he thinks, just like we are oscillating around the sun right now, that there is another sun inside the earth. Which, I mean, like, could the earth's core just be like a sun? It could. It really could. Like, it really could. Very similar properties. Anyways, yeah, he also thought that the entrance into the hollow shell could be found through holes at the North and the South Pole. He thought that the earth was like heaviest at the equator and then thinned out at the North and South poles, which allowed for the holes to be created to like enter this hollow world universe. Yeah, that's kind of cool to me. I don't know why it would be the thickest. Why would it not be evenly distributed? The thickness of like the crust, Earth's crust. Because all of these theories hold true that like, okay, we think that Earth's crust is Earth's crust and it's like this deep. They're all saying like a couple hundred miles, whatever. Well, a couple hundred to a couple thousand miles. But inside, people have different ideas about what's inside, or like how to even get inside. I would think that the crust would be evenly distributed, and I read, like, he has this, I read the actual, like, manuscript that Euler wrote in 1738, and it is absolutely fascinating. All I googled was like Leonhard Euler hollow earth theory, and like the actual 1738 manuscript came up. And I think if you're like into creepy conspiracy theories, which if you're watching this, then I assume you are, read it because it's interesting. I'm only putting the highlights, but he like explains why he thinks that it would be thinner at the poles and heavier at the equator, worked for the military in some sort, and he flew planes. Okay, so he flew missions over the North Pole, and he would write in his personal journal about a mysterious world beyond the North Pole, and he called it the center of the great unknown. He reported flying over lush green areas where none should have been, which, like, who's to say, plants can't grow somewhere because it's cold. I don't know. And then he's like, I'm sorry, no offense to anyone in the military, but like, you're a military pilot, you're not a scientist. How are you gonna say like this ecosystem cannot sustain, should not be sustaining life in terms of like, in what is lush green areas? Because I live in Wisconsin, and in the dead of winter, I can take you to a forest, and that's lush green areas, and like the Christmas trees are green, like there's bushes that are green, like I can find a lush green area in a cold temperature. And I'm just saying that the lush green areas was like weird and like otherworldly is interesting to me, because it could be some otherworldly shit, like for real, or it could just be like a misinterpretation of how ecosystems work. I don't know. I really don't know. So, yeah, let's continue on. After that, about 3 years later, in 1950, he flew over the South Pole, and it was recorded that the first things he discovered in Antarctica was an entrance into the hollow earth civilization. You heard me. That was the first thing he found. An entrance into hollow earth civilization in Antarctica. And apparently the civilization was populated by advanced beings, whatever that means. And then this brings my question: how big are these openings? Like, are they big enough for you to like jump through? Because when I was watching the video, they kept showing like an opening, like in Antarctic, clearly, opening that looked like it could have been like an ice fishing hole or something, or like an entrance to a cave. But it was only like, it looked like maybe single file people could get through, not really like someone flying a plane. So I'm not sure if the video I watched was like accurate in its visuals, but like, how big are the openings? And if they're like so big that you can fly a plane through them, how has no one ever seen them? Is it because they're like at the North and South Poles, and like that's extreme weather, and people just don't normally venture out to look for big holes in places like that? I don't know. Or do they just not exist? I don't know. So yeah, with Admiral Richard Byrd, and then him saying he went in the hole and found some advanced beings. Like, okay, like, is this hollow earth theory, or is this like alien talk? Because we can get into both. I don't know, but whatever that means. When he got back to the United States, he was questioned about all of these statements he had been making about finding the hole to the hollow earth civilization, and the civilization having these advanced beings living there. And after all of the questioning, essentially he was told to stop talking about those theories, like, kind of like stop spreading lies. But you never know with the government. He could have been spreading truths. Some say scientifically it could be true. Now all of like the civilizations and advanced civilizations and ancient civilizations living inside the earth, I don't know. I don't know if that's true or if that's just like our obsession with aliens, which I will give you my stance on aliens right now. They're real. Yeah. And if you want to argue with me about it in the comments, do that. But I don't know if there's like really people living or beings living inside of the earth. I don't know if there's like a civilization inside of the earth. But the idea that the earth could be hollow, that's not off to me. To me, that could be scientifically proven if we had the right resources to do so. Like, even thinking about like going up into space and drilling into the earth, like when you go up into space you need a spacecraft so that you can like break atmospheric pressure. There's nothing for us to do that with digging inside of the earth, which is why we haven't been able to do it. But is that because like the earth really is hollow, so when we get inside the earth it's like made up of the same shit that's in outer space, and that's why? Or is it because like there's all these layers and this core and all of this? I don't know. It seems it is giving logical, babes. Hollow earth theory is giving. It might be true if we can prove it. Yeah, if you've been subscribed to my channel for a while, you know that like I won't believe anything, but I will like rationalize and walk through the steps of a possibility with almost anything. If you can show me rational steps, I'll be like, okay. Even if I don't believe it, I'll be like, I don't think that's what it is. But if you have evidence to prove that that's what it is, then alright then. So, I don't know. Give me y'all's thoughts about hollow earth theory, and what do y'all think about it? What do y'all think is in the inside of the earth? Do you think it's like that King Kong movie where it's like this big lush whole nother world? Or do you think it's like empty, like outer space? I think if it's hollow, then it's empty like outer space. For sure. And that's why it's so hard for us to drill down, because we have to break like the atmospheric pressure. We don't have like a rocket ship that can dig down, you know. I don't know. So yeah, with that being said, that concludes this video, and I think I'm going to upload this on Christmas Eve or Christmas,